Good morning, everyone. It is Friday, June the 12th, and welcome to 7 Investing Live. This is our live stream event where we put a spotlight on several of the market's most intriguing opportunities and discuss them every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 10 o'clock a.m. Eastern Time. My name is Simon Erickson. I'm founder and CEO of 7 Investing, joined by our executive producer, Heather Horton. Heather, it's Friday morning. It is SpaceX morning. We just had the largest IPO in the history of the stock market take place 30 minutes ago. SpaceX is now a publicly traded stock. We have to talk about that here today. How are you feeling about the IPO this morning?
I mean, it feels wild that it's finally here. We've been talking about the SpaceX IPO, it feels like, for years. Yeah, I mean, I'm not much of an IPO investor because I like to let the wildness calm down, but it's going to be a wild one to watch, that's for sure.
No doubt about it. The magnitude of this is insane. You know, we have to talk a little bit about the numbers, and then I want to talk more broadly about investing in IPOs. What's going on out there? What's the current appetite for the market? It's kind of a weird time right now, but SpaceX itself, SpaceX is a conglomeration of a lot of Elon Musk projects. The first being Twitter, now known as X. We all still call it Twitter. Elon vehemently refers to this as X.com. Has 600 million users, 250 million of which are using it on a daily basis, and is collecting 300 million posts a day. That's pretty cool. That's a business by itself. That's pretty impressive in magnitude. On top of X is XAI, the computing infrastructure that powers Grok, powers Twitter, powers all the things that are necessary for all the applications for that, which has now got computing capacity of 2 gigawatts per data center, considering the Colossus data center that's out there in Tennessee. XAI is going to be scaling up its computing capacity here in the near future. On top of XAI, now you've got SpaceX, the parent organization that owns both of those, that has 10,000 satellites actively orbiting the United States and the world, the Earth right now, and 10 million subscribers to the Starlink telecommunications in 164 different countries. I mean, the magnitude of this is absolutely impressive. There's no doubt about it that SpaceX is touching every corner and every square inch of the globe in some way, and it's going to be even more important in the future. It's also wanting to build orbital data centers, something that has not been attempted by any other company thus far, and is expected to continue to improve its terrestrial computing capacity as well, the ones that are still in the Earth, not up there floating in outer space. Let's talk a little bit about the numbers, because this is an IPO that just raised $75 billion. As mentioned, largest IPO in the history of the stock market. Now traded in the NASDAQ, right? It's a $1.8 trillion valuation. The company as a whole did $20 billion in revenue last year, putting it at 90 times trailing sales. And on top of that, this is not a profitable company, at least in terms of free cash flow. It did generate $1 billion in the first quarter of operating cash flow off of mostly the Starlink business that is providing internet access to all corners of the world. But it also spent $10 billion in capital expenditures. As we all know, launching satellites into space is very expensive, and there's a lot of computing infrastructure they're paying a lot of money for. So where do we stand? Massive company, massive reach, important to the entire world out there, but also burning cash right now. What is Elon going to do with SpaceX now that he's got $75 billion in his pocket? You know, this is a lot of faith, Heather, and just Elon doing what Elon does, which is, attempting the impossible, making it happen like he did with the original X, like he did with Tesla. Now that he's doing with SpaceX, it's like, we're giving him $75 billion to kind of figure it out. Keep in mind that the business just burnt $9 billion in the most recent quarter in free cash flow.
So, yeah, that's wild numbers. What is the long-term business plan of SpaceX? Like, how do they plan to make that kind of profit?
So Elon wants to build terafactories, right? The terra, it was gigafactories first, for mass producing vehicles. Now he wants to do as much computing as efficiently as he possibly can. The Colossus data center is kind of the blueprint of what he wants to build terrestrially here in the world, really. Massive computing. Grok uses a lot of computing capacity. Anything that's related to AI training and now inference is using a ton of capacity. Elon is kind of like, I don't want to say the hidden winner, but the hidden winner of OpenAI. We all know that there's a feud going on with him and Sam Altman right now. Um, there's a lawsuit that did not go in Elon's favor, but like Elon has kind of not caught all of the headlines, but he's catching a lot of the future headlines on what he's doing for the AI training and the AI inference stuff like that. There's the computing side of it, and then there's the launching into outer space stuff, right? SpaceX has been largely doing some missions here and there for NASA and for the government, but a lot of it is just internally, launching 10,000 satellites that are actively floating around in low Earth orbit right now, mostly for Starlink. Is he really going to put data centers in outer space? I mean, we talked about that before on one of these shows. There's solar power, so you don't have to worry about the wind not blowing or the sun not shining because you're out there and you're always getting access to power. It's zero gravity, so you don't have to deal with that. There's a lot of the restrictions that you have here on Earth. Can you do it in outer space? Elon says yes, and we generally believe Elon when he says yes on things like this. There's a lot of expectations built into what this company can accomplish, keeping in mind that it did $20 billion of revenue at a $1.8 trillion valuation.
Yeah. Wild. I mean, if anyone can, it's probably this group with this kind of money behind it. Um, I haven't really seen anyone being concerned about the split focus of Elon Musk. How do you feel about that? At this point, he's got multiple massive projects going. Is that a concern?
It's a huge concern, in my opinion. This is the largest key man risk that you can possibly take on. If Elon leaves any of these companies, in my opinion, they're not investable, including Tesla. How many projects can he run? How many multiple businesses worth more than $1 trillion can he run at the same time? I mean, we already know he doesn't sleep and he works 100 hours a week. You kind of get diminishing returns after that on his time. And that's not even talking about all the other side projects that he has, that he's working on also. I don't know, Heather. I'm pretty hesitant about this as an investor. I don't like putting money into capital intensive businesses where we have faith that they're going to solve things that are very, very difficult. Tesla's timelines, if you've been following along, everyone loves Tesla and what they've accomplished, but Tesla never hits a deadline. Tesla never hits the expectation of when something is going to happen based on what Elon says is going to happen, right? Autonomous vehicles, we're still not there. Yes, they have autopilot. Yes, they've come a long way. But in terms of full self-driving capabilities, we're still not where Elon said we were going to be even 5 years ago. SpaceX, launching orbital data centers, it sounds really cool, sounds amazing. Spending a lot of money on it right now. There's a big project and they've raised a lot of capital to do this. I think this is going to be similar to the Tesla model. I think that we're going to keep talking about how cool this is going to be, but the business itself is going to have to burn a ton of capital. We haven't even gotten started with these things yet, and we're already building, we're already spending $10 billion a quarter in CapEx. Crazy numbers.
Something that comes up a lot about data centers in space is how they're going to cool them, because you don't have airflow, so you can't cool them that way. And you can still use radiation cooling, where like a radiator would, that still works in space, but the size of the radiators are going to have to be huge. It's a solvable problem, probably, but it's not just the easy like, oh, don't have to worry about that in space. And yes, the solar access is going to be would be really, really good. But I also wonder if it's more feasible and smarter. I know China has a lot of data centers they're building under the ocean for cooling purposes. So yeah, I don't know. It doesn't solve all the problems, and it's a wild amount of money to be pouring into a system that's like, I think we could do this.
It really is. And, all of those are the right questions or considerations to be thinking about, especially as an investor, right? Like, how are you actually going to do this? How are you actually going to get a return on your money rather than just, oh, Elon's going to figure it out, right? And look at the mission statement of Space Exploration Technologies: to build the systems and technologies necessary to make life multiplanetary, to understand the true nature of the universe, and to extend the light of consciousness to the stars. Actual wording of the mission statement of SpaceX. I mean, that sounds like NASA, right? That sounds like a government funded cool exploration, mission. not necessarily a publicly traded company that is using investor capital to go figure out if there's life on other planets out there. I applaud them. This is amazing. But as an investor, a $1.8 trillion valuation for Elon to go figure out there's aliens out there and, to get Mars and put a colony out there. I mean, like, it's amazing the capital flow that has gone into this business, a private business that has now got the confidence of the stock market 100% behind Elon to use $75 billion, basically however he wants to do it. Blank check, amazing. Go make it happen. I'm not buying into the IPO though.
I'm not either. I don't own any of his stocks. I think they're too volatile and too problematic to have a single person like that as such a fall. But it will be interesting to see what they manage, and it's definitely an example of what a single powerful personality can achieve with the public stock market.
It's going to be one to keep an eye on. We wanted to keep a short show here and just kind of talk broadly about it. I will say, to Elon's credit, he is not just a technically brilliant person. He is, but he's not just an engineer and a scientist. He also respects the financial side of all of his businesses. He makes them work. Tesla's making a lot of money. And, he's got the hype and we've got a lot of confidence in him. He's a pretty good salesman and a good showman out there, but he's not just going out there and burning our money, lighting it on fire and spending it carelessly. There are real businesses behind this. And right now, it's going to be primarily Starlink that's going to be funding the business, at least the cash flows of this business right now. And then it's going to be capital raises. If Elon can get away with a couple more capital raises at a $1.8 trillion market cap or even higher than that, that's a lot of money to put, on a balance sheet for him to play with. $75 billion. There's so many companies that aren't even worth $75 billion. He just raised $75 billion. And we have faith that he's going to use that appropriately. I think SpaceX is going to raise again in 2026, another secondary within the year, within 12 months, and then again in 2027, as long as the stock market continues to give this kind of valuation to him. And it's going to be amazing. I mean, this is budgets that are larger than, a lot of NASA's budgets for these kinds of missions. And Elon's going out there and raising it because he wants to get to Mars and put a colony out there. This is going to be good for mankind. As an investor, I'm very hesitant about this. It's one of those that you get a little bit of a shiver looking at what's going to happen. It's going to cost a lot of money to do it. But we'll take Elon at his word because he's tended to do pretty well with that over the last 20, 30 years.
If you look at it as a public crowdfunding for getting to Mars, that might be a more realistic view of this stock. And it's still very interesting.
It is. And you have to disconnect yourself from the fundamentals of the business, from what the stock is trading with, because there is so much momentum in this right now. Every fund that has got investors calling them right now and saying, hey, are we in on the SpaceX IPO? You have to say yes. So there's money plowing into this, and it's going to continue for a while. It'll be interesting to see where they trade, after this first week or so, knowing that we came out at a $1.8 trillion valuation, $75 billion on the balance sheet now. Came out hot. We'll see what happens within the next couple of days and weeks.
And I do think that the internet service has been critical for a lot of places in this world, and it will probably continue to be very important. So hopefully we can see that side of the business grow and somewhat help offset the costs.
We'll see. We'll see where the pricing power lies on this too. So much of this is just that the SpaceX is first to do a lot of these things, and they're growing at a massive scale. Of course, you got the Starship, the massive rocket that they're working on out there down here in Texas. This is not Facebook where you can flip a switch and all of a sudden you can double your revenue based on ad load or anything like this. These are physical products being built with launch schedules that are limited in how fast you can scale up this business. And SpaceX did exactly what it was supposed to do from a business perspective, right? It went out there when the market was hot, raised a ton of money, and now it's got a ton of money to work with. It's going to acquire other companies. It's going to build things internally. It's going to be building out new capacities, and there's going to be new projects that Elon's going to work on. Be cautious as an investor. Make sure that you're not completely just trusting the faith of the prospectus and the strategic roadmap of Elon. There's a long way to go before we can make the numbers make sense on this one.
Do we have any competitors for Starlink, like trying to make something?
I mean, this is a business that has been littered by failures. Remember OneWeb not that long ago that was working on something very similar. They wanted to have internet that was, put on all corners of the globe. Masayoshi Son, The projects that he was working on, he was wanting to build 50-year plans when he was doing these kinds of things, and they just realized there was so much money that it cost to even do these things. Even fiber. Remember how much fiber cost? It was $500 billion that was spent laying fiber optics underground in this country for broad-based internet. And then, like, all of a sudden, we're talking about now orbital data centers and launching things like this and beaming the information up and down from outer space. I mean, these are we've never gone there before. This is the final frontier in the truest sense. But in terms of the competitors, I mean, we've had other companies that have tried, at least from the telecom side of it, that compete with Starlink. I've never seen any other company that's attempting to put orbital data centers out in outer space.
Mhm.
And then the launch side of it too, right? Like Starlink now, supported by SpaceX rockets and the Falcon rockets. You've got now Rocket Lab. We've talked plenty of times about them as kind of moving from small lift to like medium lift, which is kind of getting into some of the swim lanes of what SpaceX is capable of doing. But in terms of the really, really massive ones, putting entire constellations out there, they're going to be doing that for themselves. There's just not that many businesses outside of the government that need to put up entire massive constellations that would be required for a company that has like a starship available to even do it. This is Elon's ambitions that he wants to make happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely excited to see where this one evens out with, and it's IPO days are always a fun one to watch.
It will be. And, we're going to be seeing how the shares are trading here within an hour or two. They did raise their capital. They went public. $75 billion now to the company, $1.8 trillion valuation. We're going to see what happens here later in the trading day. Again, traded on the NASDAQ, SpaceX now a publicly traded company. Interesting narrative, interesting storyline. It's going to be a fun one to follow up on here. We'll leave it at that. I think we're going to leave it for the weekend. I hope that you guys have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend coming up. We are going to be talking more about chip companies. We're going to be talking about semiconductors with Chip Stock Investor next week. We're also going to be getting the guys from Chip Chat Stocks on the program here next week. Excited to have some new guests back again on our 7 Investing Live podcast. In the meantime, have a great weekend. We'll see you next week.